Hello everyone, my name is Jenny Wu and my presentation is on Down syndrome. I have not yet worked with students with Down syndrome, but by doing the research, I noticed that approximately 1 in every 700 babies in the United States is born with Down syndrome, about 6,000 each year. But actually, how much do we really know about this disability? Here are some helpful things I learned that I wanted to share with you. The first thing I found was a general definition of what causes disability. It says Down syndrome is a condition in which people have extra chromosomes. Chromosomes are small packages of genes in the body. They determine the body shapes and functions of babies during pregnancy and when they grow up after birth. Usually babies are born with 46 chromosomes. Babies with Down syndrome have an extra copies of chromosomes 21. The medical terms for having an extra copy of chromosome is trisomy, which is called trisomy 21. This extra copy changes the way of baby's body and brain develop, which may bring mental and physical challenges to the babies. This extra genetic materials leads to the development and physical characteristics of Down syndrome. There are 3 forms of Down syndrome. The most common is trisomy 21. It's about 95% of cases of Down syndrome. The person with trisomy 21 has 3 copies of chromosome 21 in all cells instead of usually 2. This is caused by abnormal cells division during the sperm or egg development. The second most common form of Down syndrome is translocation. Accounting about 4% of Down syndrome may also occur before or during conception, when a part of chromosome 21 is attached, which has been translocated to another chromosome. These children usually have 2 copies of chromosome 21, but they also have additional genetic material from chromosome 21 attached to other chromosome. And the final most rare form of Down syndrome is mosaicism. In this rare Down syndrome, which is 1% of all cases, only a few cells of a person have extra copies of chromosome 21. This mosaic of normal cells and abnormal cells is caused by abnormal cell division after fertilization. Some common physical characteristic is that they are short in stature with short legs and arms in relation to torso. They also commonly have poor muscle tones, which is why there is such a need to focus on physical education and encouraging them to do active things. Another common physical characteristic is a flattened facial profile and nose, as well as eyes slanted upward and outward. 2 other characteristics that are important to understand is that oftentimes people with Down syndrome develop mild to moderate obesity and have underdeveloped respiratory and cardiovascular system. With these 2 characteristics, physical education becomes even more important. Additionally, they have broad hands and feet with short fingers and toes and a single scissor in palms of hands. They also struggling with poor balance and perceptual difficulties. Finally, they suffer from poor vision and hearing loss. Some motor skill characteristics that are important to know as physical educator are that students with Down syndrome is that they usually have low permeability to high joint activity. They also have physical milestone delay or miss physical milestones such as crawling. They use alternate movements such as possibly sliding on the hips. Their short and wide hands and fingers affect fine motor ability. Congenital heart disease may also limit people's physical fitness and reduce endurance. They also have a high risk of spinal cord injury because cervical dislocation exposes the spinal cord. Also, because they have shortened bones, especially in their arms and legs, this makes it even more difficult to climb stairs and support elbows. Finally, there may be a muscle weakness, poor bilateral control, poor midline stability, poor exercise planning skill, or more dyskinesia. Due to the exposure of their neck, children with Down syndrome have an increased risk of spinal cord compression, known as Atlantoaxial Instability. A fun statement about this is about 15% of young people with Down syndrome have Atlantoaxial Instability disease. Almost all of them are asymptomatic. Some asymptomatic individuals with normal X-ray will have abnormal X-ray later, and other individual with abnormal X-ray will have a normal follow-up X-rays. This latter change is even more common. This problem is caused by low tension, loose ligament, and bone changes. The spinal cord will be crushed by the bones, resulting in nerve damage. Symptoms of nerve injury can appear at any time, and there is no test for X-ray to judge who is at risk. What is the hard about this injury is that Atlantoaxial instability is not rare. It occurs in children with Down syndrome, 10 to 30%, and somatic Atlantoaxial instability may reach up to 1 to 2% of all children with Down syndrome. I also found some incidence and prevalence rate facts. Down syndrome is the most recognizable genetic condition associated with intellectual disability. Women over age 35 present the highest risk 1 in 350 of having a child with Down syndrome. At age 40, the risk increased 1 in 100 births, and at age 45, the risk is 1 in 30 births. The likelihood of having a second child with Down syndrome after a woman has given birth to a baby with trisomy 21 is 1 in 100 up until the age of 40, according to the National Down Syndrome Society. So as the woman's age, the risk of having babies with Down syndrome goes up. 1 in 691 children is born with Down syndrome. As I stated earlier, in the United States, approximately 400,000 Americans have Down syndrome, and about 6,000 babies with Down syndrome are born each year. Finally, Down syndrome occurs in individuals of all race and economic levels. Some teaching and instructional tips and facts are: person with Down syndrome should have a well-rounded program of exercise of all usable body parts. Some aspects that should especially be focused on are balance, develop strength, cardiovascular endurance, and muscular endurance. And exercise tips I found is that aerobic capacity exercise should be used to improve balance and range of motion. Some activity that can be used to achieve this is jogging, 1 mile walk, various sport activities. Finally, the physical educator should develop a realistic exercise program that can help students to improve function of muscular strength, efficiency of heart, and weight management. Some other tips are: students with Down syndrome respond better to visual rather than verbal cues and prompts. Here are some tips for using visual cues. Place a strong emphasis on visual learning when teaching and reading to students with Down syndrome. Another is to use visual demonstration, pictures, and illustration. Be sure to include additional images in handout where possible. Also, use of colorful material or equipment around the room is very useful. Another tip is to play videos with closed captions to reinforce content. Leave demonstration work as well. Finally, when tackling materials with advanced vocabulary, draw like a small image against difficult words in the margin to increase learning. For young children, I will do an activity called free dance, and the equipment I will use is a CD player with music. The rules for student is: student will dance with music and freeze when the music stops. Student will group with peers. The instruction will be demonstration from other students and one-on-one instruction if student need extra support. The environment will be the football field or the gym depending on the weather. And for middle and high school students, I will do the soccer activity. The equipment is the soccer ball and the goals. The rules will be: the student cannot use hands at any point during the games. Any other body part is acceptable. One goalie for each team, and student will pick a partner for the games. Instruction will be demonstration from other student and one-on-one instruction if student need extra support. The environment, it will be the outside on the football field, but we will only use the half of the football field and set up the goals with whites. Some behavior tips and strategy I will use is I will try to give simple and clear directions to the student, and also to establish a routine and stick to it so the student won't get confused, and give them time to understand what is being said. And if they have questions, I will listen carefully to what they say and ask them to repeat the instruction they heard. And I was trying to plan for difficult situations, so also to provide a plan B to meet the students' need. Make times for fun activities, that's really important. And also I was trying to create a good behavior chart, like follow directions. And if the student like having good behavior, I will also to reward them. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you for listening.